So, but my feeling is that the way to like stop these kind of things from happening is these companies, and I went deep into looking at what social media management and monitoring tool does the Canadian government use. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure this out, and I did not get what I think it is that they just have to choose one and they have to get it approved. I don't think that they're only using one, but they do have a proprietary system that they had built, or that so they probably put out like a request for proposal. There's a company that built something, I forget what it's called. So they are for sure, okay, every media company was for sure using a social media monitoring, or it's also a social media listening tool, where they get sentiment about how the public feels about various topics.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
When you see stories coming out about Bill C-11, you need to use keywords in the comments that say, this is bad. I don't want this. This is wrong. They will see sentiment means that they see words like bad, don't like it, cancel, that sort of thing. That will give them the sentiment that people do not want this and don't like it, right? What happens usually is that I think the people with the loudest voices are the Karens, the people who are the, this called the woke culture, the people who are the complainers and the whatever, they're, into the drama of like whatever, like they're the ones who are more likely to comment. For me, if I see something I disagree with, I don't go and start an argument. I don't want to go leave a comment and be like, this is wrong, because then I'm going to get a bunch of responses, people attacking me, right? I don't want to do it. And I just realized, because I just think, why is the news so up, right? Like it really bothers me that it's like, why are these stories coming out? Like why is this happening? And I look at the comments, I'm like, why are people agreeing with this? Like, this is so weird, It's like, it just, like, if you take any time to research these various topics, like you just take 5 minutes, just look into it, read between the lines, but then you look at the comments and people are all on board. They see the headline, they hear the story the media's telling, and they just go along with it without doing any research. And I think the reason why is because the other people who know this is bullshit, we ain't got time for this. We're not going to go and argue in the comments and go and, show that we disagree or whatever. But in times like this, I think that that's what we have to do. And, our show, unfortunately, is not popular enough that we're really going to make an impact. Hopefully somebody else is going to hear this.
What are you saying? You mean after 4 episodes, we're not huge and famous and successful?
No, we're not big enough. And like, who knows what I don't know. But I'm hoping that somebody else out there is going to hear this and understand that sentiment matters. Media companies look at sentiment, and that's how they decide what their opinions are. Okay.
That's 100%. Interesting. I like that.
I've worked in social media now for 12 years. Monitoring tools, social media listening was the foundation of all these social media management tools. That's what they were originally made for. You look at Hootsuite, which was one of the first kind of social media management tools.
Which is Canadian.
It's a Canadian tool, but the UI, the whole thing is built, wasn't about scheduling content. It was about listening. Right? Social media listening. So you can create columns and you can create lists. Like the whole idea of Twitter lists originally was from Hootsuite you could create lists and you'd have people in different columns so you could like keep engaged with certain people. Now it's like built in the Twitter lists and stuff. So a lot of the stuff was all from these social media management tools, right? But there's a lot of them out there that have sentiment. If you ever look at one, you could see that you could type in a topic and it will tell you how people emotionally feel, how people think about a certain topic. Right. So when these media companies start seeing that we are against, you got to use the right keyword. I am against Bill C-11. This is very bad for Canada. Right. When you use those kind of words in the comments, they are going to see it and they're going to realize that the sentiment of Canadians is that they do not want Bill C-11. We need the media on our side. We don't need politicians on our side. The media is controlling the narrative. I know that I think in my conspiracy land world is that the government is somehow controlling the media. Okay. But the media is focused on their bottom line and they are going to.
I got a question for you about sorry to cut you off like that. I got a question for you about how sentiment is actually measured, because you know a whole lot more about that side of things than I do. Is sentiment, when people are using those keywords like you just said, is sentiment weighted differently depending on where the keywords are used? For example, am I commenting on a post? Is it the title of a post? How much engagement and traction is that particular post getting? Is sentiment measured like that, or would sentiment be measured more across the board, equally weighted, despite where those keywords were appearing?
No, sentiment is around the keywords people are using and whether those words are associated to good or bad, right? So a lot of brands are like, let's say if you want to know how people feel about, we're going to get into this later on, but around Elon Musk versus like Mark Zuckerberg, for example, right? You could use this tool, you could type in the word Mark Zuckerberg, and then it'll tell you a lot of people are using words like the words like bad, against, that sort of thing. Those are like negative words, right? So they're going to know that in general, there's a negative feeling around this brand or person or topic or whatever it is. It's a feeling based on those kinds of words. And then you could dive in if you really want to get into it. You can start seeing what exactly people are saying, what phrases are often used. You can kind of get it. It's big data, right? Because you're looking at hundreds, thousands of comments. You could do this on a topic level, just on Twitter alone. You could just look at how do people talk about this on Twitter, like in the sphere. But these companies, they have access to their own Facebook accounts or Twitter accounts, so they can look at the sentiment of when they post a topic, what they're talking about, how their audience is reacting to that topic. So Canadians who do not want to get into drama on Facebook, and you don't leave comments because who cares, right? I started just leaving comments here and there, and I use the keyword, "This is bad for Canada." Right? This is, I am against this, right? Just straight up keywords. And also when other people start looking at those comments, if all the people who are, I don't know if really Canadians are really for Bill C-11. I don't know, but most people probably won't understand it or know what it is. But just in general, for any issues, like not just Bill C-11, I'm saying any issue that you're seeing the narrative going in a direction that you don't agree with. The way that I think that Canadians can fight back is by leaving those comments and creating that negative sentiment around that topic. And then I think if media companies start seeing that, looking at that sentiment, they're going to change their tune. And when they change their tune, they could change the narrative. And I think that will affect policy more than emailing your MLA, right? I don't think that's going to work.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think Canadians need to be concerned about this issue for so many reasons. The vaguely worded language in the bill is highly concerning. The far-reaching ability that the CRTC would have access to is extremely concerning. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to focus on what you can influence and have control over. I'm a big advocate behind that approach, that philosophy to life. And Matt just served up a fantastic option for you to take action. It wouldn't take very much effort or very much time on your part to leave that negative sentiment about Bill C-11 and just writing. I mean, I've never written a letter to my legal representative before, and I'm no longer a Canadian resident, so I wouldn't have that ability. But spreading this message and this topic on Good Morning Marketers, if that's the least Matt and I can do, and kind of encourage you to take a little bit of a stand here, you'll be able to protect your ability to consume more widely available content, and hopefully the content creator economy will continue to excel in Canada. There are some fantastic content creators in Canada. Canada is a very creative country. I'm very proud to be Canadian, and it's just really sad to see some of these conversations that are happening right now. I got to tell you though, because I do travel all over the world, it's really strange, man. Sometimes I talk to friends and family back in Canada, and it could be about any subject, literally any subject. The pandemic could be anything, and people back home are seeing certain things on the news, and I'm like, really? I'm not seeing that at all. This is what I'm seeing, and this is from my perspective. And I'm a huge advocate behind traveling around the world and being a digital nomad, because you end up getting a more broad sense of where the world is at. And I mean, I'm not pretending to be any kind of expert on any of this stuff. I'm really not. But I am worried for my loved ones who are back in Canada, who watch the exact same news program day in, day out, because I would consider, that a form of brainwashing people, right? Because you've conditioned them to think a certain way. Everyone should be rethinking the way they think. Ultimately, that's how I feel about it. You need to rethink the way you're thinking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree.